styling is timeless. The ride.
You're in for a pleasant surprise, because now you can get that room and ride in the first...
Remember that time you saw a car door and thought, wait, how does that even work? Maybe it was at a car show, or in a movie, or just parked on the street, and you had to do a double take because the door was doing something doors definitely shouldn't do. Well, car manufacturers have been getting creative with their entrances for decades, and some of their ideas were absolutely brilliant. Others were... let's just say they were memorable for different reasons. Today we're counting down the 10 weirdest car doors ever made, from the impractical to the ingenious, from the why would you do that to the why didn't everyone do that. And trust me, number one on this list is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about getting in and out of a car. So buckle up, hit that like button if you've ever struggled with a normal car door, and let's dive into automotive history's strangest entrances. Number 10. The BMW Isetta Bubble Car Picture.
Mit dem zweckmäßigen BMW 600 bringt der Vater die Kinder sicher zur Schule.
It's 1955. Post-war Europe needs cheap, efficient transportation. BMW's solution? A car where the entire front of the vehicle is the door. Yes, the whole front. The steering wheel and dashboard swing out with it. You literally walk into this car like you're entering a phone booth. The Isetta looked like an egg on wheels, and getting in meant hoping nobody parked too close to your front bumper, because if they did, well, you weren't getting out. Ever. The door was hinged on one side and had the license plate mounted right on it. When you opened it, the steering column moved with the door thanks to a universal joint system. It was actually pretty clever engineering. But here's the thing nobody talks about. In a front-end collision, your only exit was blocked. Some countries required a sunroof just so people could escape. The British version even added a reverse gear specifically because drivers kept getting trapped against walls. BMW sold over 160,000 of these things. People loved them despite the obvious design flaw. They got 70 miles per gallon and could fit in the tiniest parking spaces. You just had to remember to back into those spaces. The Isetta became a cultural icon, appearing in films and TV shows as the ultimate symbol of quirky European design. Today, collectors pay serious money for these death traps. A restored Isetta can sell for $30,000 or more. All for a car where the door is literally the entire front end. But wait, it gets weirder. Some owners modified their Isettas with custom side doors, completely defeating the purpose of the original design. Others embraced the weirdness and painted their cars to look like cartoon characters, with the front door becoming a giant mouth. The Isetta proved that sometimes the weirdest ideas become the most beloved, even if they could potentially trap you inside. Number 9. The Kaiser Darrin sliding doors. In 1954, Kaiser Motors decided regular doors were too mainstream. Their solution? Doors that slid into the front fenders, not backwards like a minivan. Into the fenders, like the car was eating its own doors. The Kaiser Darrin was designed by Howard Dutch Darrin, who apparently looked at normal car doors and thought, no, this is too easy. The fiberglass doors would slide forward on tracks and disappear into pockets in the front fenders. It was like having a pocket door in your house, except it was on a car and it was 1954, and nobody asked for this. The mechanism was actually pretty complex. Each door weighed about 50 pounds and rode on a series of rollers and tracks. When fully open, the doors would stick out slightly from the fenders, looking like the car had sprouted wings, or ears, depending on your perspective. But here's where it gets interesting. The doors were notorious for jamming. Dirt, debris, or just a slight misalignment would trap you inside. Owners carried lubricant spray like it was holy water. Some even removed the sliding mechanism entirely and converted their doors to conventional hinges. The Darrin only lasted 1 year in production. Kaiser built just 435 of them. Today, they're incredibly rare and valuable, partly because so few survived with their original sliding doors intact. The design was so unusual that when the TV show The Munsters needed a car for their teenage son Eddie, they chose a Darrin. Because apparently nothing says monster family like doors that slide into the fenders. Dutch Darrin himself was so disappointed with Kaiser's execution of his design that he bought the remaining inventory and continued selling them from his Los Angeles showroom. He even offered a supercharged version, because if you're going to have weird doors, you might as well go fast while struggling to get out. Number 8. The Lincoln Continental Suicide Doors. Okay, let's talk about the most infamous doors in automotive history. Suicide doors, rear hinge doors that open backwards. Lincoln brought them back in 1961 on the Continental, and they became an instant symbol of luxury and danger, hence the name. The term suicide doors wasn't just dramatic flair. If these doors opened while driving, the wind would catch them and rip them wide open. If you were leaning out, well, physics wasn't your friend. The doors would essentially throw you from the car. Lincoln never officially called them suicide doors, of course. They preferred center opening doors or coach doors, but everyone knew what they really were. The 1961 Continental was massive. The rear doors were equally huge, requiring significant space to open. Valets had nightmares about parking these things. But here's what made them special. When all 4 doors were open, there was no B-pillar. The entire side of the car was one giant opening. It was like the car was showing off, saying, "Look how easy it is to get in and out of me." Presidents loved them. JFK was riding in a Continental with suicide doors when he was assassinated. After that, the Secret Service wasn't too keen on doors that opened the wrong way. But Lincoln kept making them through 1969. The doors became so iconic that when Lincoln brought back the Continental name in 2017, they brought back the suicide doors too. Now they call them embrace doors because apparently we're more sensitive about naming conventions these days. Modern versions have electronic latches and sensors to prevent them from opening while moving. They've solved the whole throwing you from the car problem, but they still require a football field's worth of space to open in a parking lot. Rolls-Royce uses them. So does the Mazda RX-7, sort of. They put tiny suicide doors in the back that can only open when the front doors are open first. It's like suicide doors with training wheels. The real question is why we call them suicide doors when front hinge doors cause way more accidents. But normal doors doesn't have the same ring to it. Number 7. The Tucker 48 Cyclops door. Preston Tucker was a visionary, or completely insane, maybe both. In 1948, he created a car so advanced it scared the entire auto industry. Part of that advancement? A door that wasn't actually a door, it was a panel in the rear that popped out electrically. Tucker called it the Tucker-matic door system. The rear doors were designed to be completely flush with the body when closed. No handles, no visible hinges, just smooth metal. To open them, you pressed a button and electric motors would pop the door out and slide it back. In 1948, when most cars still had manual everything, but Tucker's real innovation was supposed to be doors that would automatically open in a crash. He wanted the doors to sense an impact and pop open, allowing passengers to escape quickly. The government said absolutely not. They were worried the doors would open during normal driving and eject passengers. So Tucker had to settle for his electric pop-out system. Only 51 Tucker 48s were ever made. The company collapsed amid fraud allegations and conspiracy theories. Some say the big 3 automakers sabotaged Tucker because his cars were too advanced. The doors were just one example. Each Tucker that survived is now worth millions. And yes, the weird doors still work on most of them. Owners have retrofitted modern actuators to keep them functional. It's like having a piece of alternate automotive history, one where doors pop out instead of swinging open. Tucker's vision included doors that would eventually open via remote control. He imagined a world where you'd press a button on your key fob and your car would open itself to welcome you. In 1948, the man was either a genius or completely detached from reality. The door mechanisms were incredibly complex for their time. Each door had its own motor, a series of gears, and a sliding track system. When they worked, they were smooth and futuristic. When they didn't, which was often, you were climbing through a window, but that was Preston Tucker's entire philosophy. Dream big, build it anyway, and let someone else figure out how to make it reliable. Number 6. The Delorean DMC-12 gullwing doors. When John DeLorean left General Motors to build his own car company, he didn't just want to make another sports car, he wanted to make a statement. That statement apparently was, doors should open like a seagull preparing for flight. The DMC-12's gullwing doors are probably the most famous weird doors in history, thanks to a certain time-traveling movie. But they were problematic from day one. The doors were heavy. really heavy. Each one weighed over 40 pounds and required gas struts to help lift them. When those struts failed, which they did frequently, the doors would either refuse to open or come crashing down on your head. The doors required 2 feet of clearance above the car to open fully. Parking garages were a nightmare. Low-hanging branches were the enemy. And if you rolled the car over, well, you better hope someone had a saw. But here's the weird part. The doors weren't even DeLorean's idea. They were suggested by designer Giorgetto Giugiaro, who thought they'd make the car look more futuristic. DeLorean loved it because it meant the car would photograph well. Every time someone opened the doors, it was a photo opportunity. The doors used a unique torsion bar system that nobody really understood. Mechanics would take one look and suddenly remember they had somewhere else to be. Owners formed support groups just to share door repair tips. Some people retrofitted their DeLoreans with conventional doors. These people were shunned by the DeLorean community. You don't buy a DeLorean and give it normal doors. That's like buying a peacock and plucking its feathers. The doors became so iconic that when Back to the Future needed a time machine, they chose the DeLorean specifically because of the doors. Robert Zemeckis said the gullwing doors made it look like an alien spaceship. Christopher Lloyd reportedly hit his head on them constantly during filming. Today, every DeLorean owner has a story about their doors, usually involving rain, a parking garage, or explaining to someone that no, the car doesn't actually travel through time, but they wouldn't change them for anything, because weird doors are what make a DeLorean a DeLorean. Number 5. The BMW Z1 disappearing doors. BMW engineers in the late 80s apparently got together and asked, what if doors just went away? Not sliding doors, not folding doors, doors that literally disappear into the body of the car. The Z1's doors dropped vertically into the door sills at the push of a button. The entire door would just sink into the car's body like it was being swallowed. You could drive with them down, creating the world's strangest convertible experience. Wind in your hair, doors in your sills. The mechanism was insanely complex. Each door was driven by an electric motor connected to a chain drive system. The windows had to be down for the doors to drop, and the whole process took about 10 seconds. 10 seconds of watching your door slowly disappear while people stared in confusion. But here's the brilliant part. With the doors down, getting in and out was incredibly easy. No door to swing open, no worrying about hitting other cars. Just step over the low sill and sit down. It was like BMW had solved a problem nobody knew existed. The doors could be operated while driving up to about 40 miles per hour. BMW actually encouraged this, marketing it as a unique open-air experience. Imagine pulling up to a stoplight and just casually making your doors disappear. The psychological effect on other drivers must have been incredible. The Z1 was only sold in Europe, and BMW only made about 8,000 of them between 1989 and 1991. Each one was hand-built, which might explain why the doors actually worked most of the time. German engineering at its most unnecessarily complex. The door system added significant weight and complexity to the car. The sills had to be reinforced to accommodate the doors, which meant the car sat higher than it should have, but nobody cared. You had disappearing doors. Maintenance was a nightmare. The chain drives would stretch, the motors would burn out, and water would get into the door storage area. Some owners converted their Z1s to conventional doors. These people are history's greatest monsters. Today, Z1s with functioning doors command premium prices. There's something magical about pressing a button and watching your door sink into oblivion. It's completely unnecessary, wildly impractical, and absolutely perfect. Which pretty much sums up BMW in the 80s. Number 3. The Lamborghini Countach scissor doors. When Lamborghini unveiled the Countach in 1974, the world collectively lost its mind. Not just because it looked like a spaceship that had gotten lost and decided to grow wheels, but because the doors opened upward like scissors, or like a beetle spreading its wings, or like Lamborghini was showing off, which they absolutely were. The scissor doors weren't just for show. Okay, they were mostly for show, but they also solved a practical problem. The Countach was so wide and low that conventional doors would have been impossible to open in normal parking spaces. So Lamborghini made doors that opened upward instead of outward. Genius, or insanity. The doors were surprisingly heavy, requiring strong gas struts to lift them. When those struts failed, which happened approximately every Tuesday, You needed the strength of a bodybuilder to open your door. Many Countach owners developed distinctively muscular left arms. The doors rotated on a complex hinge mechanism that looked like something from a medieval torture device. Each hinge was hand-built and cost more than most people's entire cars. When they wore out, replacement parts had to be custom-made by Italian craftsmen who had been apprenticing since the Renaissance. But here's the thing nobody mentions. The Countach's windows didn't roll down. They had a tiny pop-out section for toll booths. So if your scissor doors jammed, which they did, you were trapped. Lamborghini owners carried toolkits specifically for door emergencies. Some even practiced escape techniques. Getting in and out required a specific technique. You had to swing your legs out first, then push yourself up using the wide door sill. Women in skirts simply couldn't drive Countachs. Well, they could, but it wasn't advisable. The doors made the Countach an instant icon. Every poster, every bedroom wall, every kid's dream car had those doors reaching skyward. They became so synonymous with a Lamborghini that the company still uses them today. The Aventador, the Huracan, they all have scissor doors. Because once you've established that your doors go up instead of out, you can't go back. Aftermarket companies started making scissor door conversion kits for other cars. You could put them on your Honda Civic, though everyone would laugh at you. It was like wearing a tuxedo t-shirt. Everyone knew you were pretending. The Countach proved that sometimes the most impractical solution is the right one. The doors were heavy, complex, and prone to failure, but they made every arrival an event. You didn't just get out of a Countach. You emerged like a butterfly, a very expensive Italian butterfly with questionable reliability. Number 2, the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL gullwing safety cage disaster. The 1954 Mercedes 300 SL gullwing is one of the most beautiful cars ever made. It's also one of the most dangerous to get out of in an emergency. Those gorgeous gullwing doors were actually a compromise born from revolutionary engineering that nearly killed people. Mercedes developed a revolutionary tubular space frame chassis for racing. It was incredibly strong and light. It was also incredibly tall on the sides, coming up to about window height. Regular doors were impossible, so Mercedes hinged them at the roof. Gullwing doors were born. Beautiful, elegant, deadly. The doors required significant headroom to open. Park too close to a ceiling and you're trapped. But that wasn't the real problem. The real problem was rolling over. In a rollover, both doors were pinned shut. The windows were fixed plexiglass that couldn't be broken easily. Mercedes' solution: they included a special tool in the toolkit for breaking the rear window, assuming you could find it while upside down, and conscious, and not on fire. The doors were also incredibly difficult to open from inside. The interior handles were small and required significant force. If you were weakened from a crash, or if the car was at an odd angle, getting out became nearly impossible. Some owners retrofitted their cars with explosive bolts like fighter jets use. Not officially, of course. There were rumors of 300 SL owners carrying hammers specifically for window breaking. Some removed the door locks entirely, figuring theft was better than burning alive. Mercedes knew about the problem. Their solution for the Roadster version? Normal doors. They completely redesigned the chassis to accommodate them. It was an admission that beauty had trumped safety in the coupe. Racing drivers had mixed feelings. The gullwing doors looked incredible in the paddock, but several drivers had close calls with fire. One famous incident involved a driver being pulled through the broken rear window while his car burned. He survived, but never raced a gullwing again. The doors required precise adjustment. Too loose, and they'd pop open during spirited driving. Too tight, and they'd jam shut. Mercedes dealers had special jigs just for door adjustment. It was like tuning a Swiss watch if Swiss watches could trap you in a burning metal coffin. Insurance companies eventually caught on. Premiums for gullwing 300 SLs were astronomical. Some companies refused to insure them at all. It didn't matter. Owners loved them anyway, because pulling up somewhere and having those doors rise like wings made every other consideration irrelevant. Today, a good gullwing 300 SL is worth over $1 million. The door problem is well known, but collectors don't care. They've accepted that the most beautiful things in life might occasionally try to kill you. It's a very German philosophy. Number 1. The Mazda RX-7 Bathurst Barn Doors.
When you first see the Mazda RX-7, you begin to understand why it has become a legend among today's sports cars.
And now for the weirdest doors ever fitted to a production car. Doors so strange that most people don't even know they existed. The 1985 Mazda RX-7 Bathurst Special Edition, sold only in Australia, had doors that opened in 2 stages. First conventionally, then the entire door could be removed and the window frame would swing upward independently. They called them barn doors because, honestly, nobody really knows why. The Bathurst was created to celebrate Mazda's racing success in Australia. Someone in Mazda's Australian division apparently decided that normal doors weren't special enough. So they created a door system that was part conventional, part gullwing, part removable, and entirely insane. Here's how it worked, or didn't work depending on your perspective. The doors would open normally for regular use, but if you wanted the full experience, you could pull a pin, lift the entire door off its hinges, and set it aside. Then the window frame, which was on its own hinge system, could swing upward like a gullwing. Why would you want this? Nobody knows. The engineering was remarkably complex for something so unnecessary. Each door had dual hinge systems, removable pins, and reinforced mounting points. The window frames had their own gas struts. The whole system added about 30 pounds per side. Owners quickly discovered the problems. First, where do you put a car door after you remove it? They're not exactly pocket-sized. Second, the window frames were fragile when separated from the doors. Third, reassembly required perfect alignment or the doors would never seal properly again. Most Bathurst owners tried the system once, marveled at the engineering, then never removed their doors again. Some didn't even know their cars had this feature. The owner's manual dedicated 10 pages to the door system, with warnings in bold type about proper removal and storage procedures. The doors had to be removed in a specific order. First, you'd open the door normally, then you'd locate the hinge pins, which were hidden under rubber covers. Remove the pins while supporting the door's weight, lift the door away, and find somewhere to put it. Then, and only then, could you operate the window frame's gullwing function. The entire process took about 15 minutes per side if you knew what you were doing. In practice, it was more like half an hour of swearing and consulting the manual. Rain was particularly entertaining. The seal between the removable door and the gullwing frame was never quite perfect. Bathurst owners learned to carry towels. Only 500 Bathurst editions were made. Today, they're incredibly rare. Most have had their door systems disabled or modified. Finding one with fully functional barn doors is like finding a unicorn. A unicorn with the world's most unnecessarily complex door system. Mazda never explained why they created this system. The best theory is that someone in engineering was challenged to make the weirdest doors possible, and they succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. It's the only explanation that makes sense. The Bathurst proved that sometimes car companies do things just because they can, not because they should. Not because anyone asked for it, but because somewhere an engineer woke up and thought, what if doors could do everything? And then they built it. And that's why the Mazda RX-7 Bathurst has the weirdest doors ever fitted to a production car. And there you have it. That's 10 of the weirdest car doors ever made, from the impractical to the insane, from the why would you do that to the why didn't I think of that? Did you know about that crazy Mazda Bathurst with its barn door system? Or were you expecting something else to take the #1 spot? Let us know in the comments below which weird door design you think deserved a mention. And hey, if you enjoyed this dive into automotive madness, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the strangest corners of car history. We'll see you next time when we explore another batch of automotive oddities that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about cars.